Hey, what's up, Solutioneers? Welcome back to the vlog. I'm Matt Prindiville, CEO and Chief Solutioneer at Upstream, and today we're going to talk about bottle bills, or as they're sometimes referred to, deposit refund systems. Now, deposits have been in place for a long time, and they're proven systems for ensuring that reusable packaging gets collected and returned for either reusing, refilling, or recycling. Now, human societies and businesses have been using deposit refund systems really since the dawn of civilization. Before the modern era, if you wanted to buy a consumable product, you would either bring your own container to get filled at the store or the marketplace, or the merchant would sell their product to you in a refillable container that they owned, and they would loan you that container or rent it to you. And they would charge a deposit to ensure that that product was brought back for reuse and refilling and use for another customer. And when you brought it back, or when it came back to them, you would get that deposit refunded. Now, back then, materials like glass and ceramics and metals were seen to have value. And businesses and consumers alike wanted to keep those containers in circulation for as long as possible. Companies like Coca-Cola and Budweiser popularized mass market deposit refund systems in the late 1800s. Back then, soda and beer companies had these distribution hubs where they would take back refillable glass bottles for washing and refilling. And the infrastructure was in place so that virtually all of the soda and beer and consumable commercial beverages sold in the United States were sold in refillable bottles. Now, unfortunately, all that changed after World War II. During World War II, the extraction and mining industries were having a field day. Those industries had to ramp up their production to serve the war effort. But once the war was over, they were like, what are we going to do? And this idea was born that we have to keep churning these natural resources, these materials that we take from the planet, through the economy in peacetime as well as in wartime. And one of the big ideas was to sell all of these materials like aluminum, paper, plastic, and steel in the form of disposable products to the American people. So the extraction companies started developing partnerships with the beverage and consumer goods companies. And the big soda and beer companies started shifting their packaging away from refillable glass bottles to one-way, throwaway aluminum, glass, and eventually plastic containers for their beverages. And then they eliminated the deposit on these containers. So what do you think happened? Well, not surprisingly, once they did that, a whole lot of beverages and containers started winding up in the environment as litter. And the explosion in litter started provoking the ire of concerned citizens and policymakers. In the lead up to the very first Earth Day in 1970, environmental demonstrations across the country focused on the issue of throwaway containers. And all of these protests held industry, not consumers, responsible for the proliferation of all these disposable items that were causing natural resource depletion and creating massive amounts of litter. Originally billed as a litter prevention tool, legislators also started developing bottle bills, mandatory deposit refund systems that require beverage companies to take their bottles back for reuse, refilling, or recycling, and also to ensure that they wouldn't be littered. But the beer and soda industries, as well as the glass, aluminum, and plastics industries, who were making all kinds of money selling one-way, throwaway beverage containers, pushed back. The Chicago Tribune artfully documents this in their 2017 research piece, The Crying Indian, the ad that fooled the environmental movement. Essentially, major players in the industries founded an organization called Keep America Beautiful, which started to run advertising campaigns to try and convince the American public that the pollution from beverage containers was a people problem and not an industry problem. The most memorable of these ads was called The Crying Indian. It So it was a television commercial that featured an Italian-American actor who was dressed up in Native American garb. And you see him paddling a birch bark canoe through this pristine landscape. But that landscape starts to become increasingly polluted along his journey.
Some people have a deep, abiding respect for the natural beauty that was once this country. And some people don't. People start pollution. People can stop it.
Now, as the Tribune reports, Keep America Beautiful was practicing a sly form of propaganda. Since the corporations behind the campaign never publicized their involvement, people assumed that the group was a disinterested party. And by making viewers feel guilty and responsible for the pollution, the ad deflected responsibility away from industry and placed that responsibility entirely on individuals, concealing the role of industry in the pollution. Now, while environmental advocates would eventually go on to have success in passing bottle bills in 10 different states, the soda, bottled water, and beer industries prevented their expansion elsewhere and instead focused on government-run recycling programs to deal with their containers. And while these government programs have helped to increase recycling here in the United States, they haven't put a dent in litter at all. And they've led to a lot of recycled materials being either degraded or downcycled into lower value products or landfilled instead of actually being recycled. But the good news is that after 40 years of fighting bottle bills in the United States and elsewhere, big soda and bottled water have shifted their position to tentatively support bottle bills. This is a sea change, and the landscape is different now. And the really good news is that we are actually working with the beverage industry on a national bottle bill to require bottle bill legislation in every state in the country. We already know that bottle bills are the most effective tool to prevent plastic pollution and litter from beverage containers, which currently make up about 40 to 60% of all litter in the United States. But our long-term vision is that bottle bills become a tool to support the waste reduction hierarchy of reduce and reuse first before recycling, and that over time, very high recycling rates become very high reuse and refill rates. So we really hope that you enjoyed today's vlog. Please stay tuned, and if you like what you're seeing, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and share, and we will see you all next week.